'Cause they If you please, the opening of the Housing Authority meeting. And we will begin, as ever, with the announcement that we were in closed session, and that at that closed session, certain matters were discussed to be revealed by Mr. Clark.
And I don't think, we don't have to, we just made some discussions, had to do some things, but we don't need to discuss those or open them to the public.
I understand that we had to discuss that it was.
Right. We discussed land acquisition under that code, but made no formal motion or decisions on it.
And with that, we will begin our normal meeting, which we start, I think, as usual, with a salute of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we have been favored for several meetings by Mr. Rick's connection to the divine authority, sir.
Okay, I'll say a quick prayer, Father God. We just thank you for Queen Anne County. We thank you for the safety that you've given Queen Anne County. And we look and we just pray deeply for all those who are injured in shootings, all those who are injured in automobile accidents. But Lord, we just lift up you and give you thanks for Queen Anne's County, because in proportion, we're pretty safe around here. Amen? Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. With that, we are going to start with, let's see here, approval of the minutes, I guess, comes first. Anybody want to make a motion on approval?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from August 12th, 2024.
Second?
Favor?
Second is favor. Yep.
Okay. And with that, we now come to public comment. Is there any, Diana, have you come to?
I will speak for a little bit. Thanks to Rich.
Want to stand up so we can?
Working?
So they hear you on the TV.
I don't care about that part. Thanks to Rick's prayer, it reminded me though that I pray to God for all of you too, because you are the answer to our prayers. I did have to have a work order the other day. It wasn't really an emergency, but I had a clogged toilet, so it wasn't like I wanted to wait years. So anyway, Chenard came, I called, left a message. Chenard came like within an hour or two maybe, and he fixed it. So, I mean, it's just like a miracle thing happening, because I used to say to everybody, put your things on the work list and consider, you know, a couple years down the road, they'll maybe get to it, you know, and I'm serious. I mean, because when I first moved in, we were told to put whatever was wrong with our apartment, you know, and they would get back to me. So I had a window that was loose. I don't even know what was wrong with it. I had a light that's loose, and I had, oh my gosh, the brain. Anyway, nothing happened. I've been there like 4 years now, but like, I think maybe when you took over, Chenard came, and I said, well, my window's not, it's leaking because it's not in there right. He just shoved it, and it went right in, and I was like, okay, great. Oh, I know what the other one was. So then electrically, a lot of my plugs were not working. So he looked at it that time, and he said, well, we need to get somebody in here, and we'll get back to it. So that didn't really get done. And then, what was the other one? See, I can only remember two of the three.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, but it didn't get done. And then when you guys started, Chenard came to do all these things, and he said, the light in the bathroom that's loose, I'm going to have to glue it because they're not going to want to pay for a whole new piece. And so that still hasn't been done. So I'm here 4 years, still haven't gotten that light fixed. They did come and fix the electrical. They did fix my toilet, you know. So you guys are making a difference that you don't even realize. And I didn't care because I'm very patient and all these things didn't matter to me, you know, but that's what you've done. And I want you all to know that it's incredible. So thank you.
It's not the habit of the board to respond to public comment, but I think it's fair to say that if there was anything this board understood, it was how the tenants would feel about the management of this operation would principally come from how we handled the work orders and the basic maintenance of the building. So that's been absolutely top of the list, and we're working on it, and we'll get our light fixed.
I wrote it down.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for the kind words. Yes. I think with that, is there any more public remarks? Going to close public session, and we will go to the report, please, sir.
All right, so for the director's report, at their meeting on the 27th, we'd like to thank the commissioners for appointing Ms. Katrina Lewis to the Housing Authority Board. Her term will run through June 30th, 2028. Due to they turned it around so quickly, she wasn't able to make this meeting, but she will be at future meetings. As indicated, she's looking very forward to it. As a reminder, she's an assistant teacher at the House of Representatives Child Care Center, and she's also got experience from Kennard Elementary School here in Centerville, and was on the Policy Council for Head Start here in Queen Anne's County. So we now have a full board with no vacancies, so that's good news. You might notice, hopefully, in your packet, and I'd like to thank staff and Terry and Brian Barnshaw Jr., Brian's son, but you'll start to notice that for example, you mentioned that we're looking at work orders. So we're tracking the number of work orders that come in per development. We're tracking the number of work orders that we accomplish, and hopefully you'll see that the work orders, you'll see that we have in your packet, there is a new, and instead of just numbers now, we've started making a dashboard so you can see and view the number of vacancies we have, our occupancy. All of our occupancy either stayed the same or went up, other than Graysonville Terrace that jumped from 100% occupied to 97. We're working on a process now to occupy those even quicker. And so hopefully you can see that now. Instead of just looking at the raw numbers, you can see the charts and see the last of the 3-month trends there in color. So hopefully as we get more and more to that, we'll probably start putting some of this stuff just out of transparency on our website. And you also notice we do the number of after hour calls, and they've gone way down. I think that has something to do with the fact that we've been able to get work orders covered. We've got a lot of work orders. We completed 35 work orders that we accounted for in August. We got 28 new ones, and then we still have 27 outstanding. So that's right around the same, but the actual completed work orders is right around 35 this year, and you can see that.
Question on the work orders?
Sure.
Are those numbers relatively the same, or have they, it looks like a large number of work orders? Are they minor in repair?
I think what's happening is we're able to respond to them quicker. And I'm guessing, if I had to guess by looking at the data, that people are starting to re-request some work orders that didn't get done in the past. So some of that, and we're responding quicker, and I think it's almost like, people are aware that we're doing it, so they're feeling more open to start putting some work orders in. So that's what my thought is about it. But if you look at the numbers, they're actually, they're staying about, they're looking like they're actually, some of them are going up for some of the facilities there. And I think that has to do with the fact that people are, thinking about it, they're seeing things happening, and then they're seeing our guys around, and then they approach our guys, and our guys say, make sure you call it in to get a work order, or they call it in and set it up too.
So this information is all good through the end of August?
That's correct.
On the occupancy, the scattered site, that's one location
That's 9 locations. There's 9 different scattered site locations.
how many are vacant? So one?
How many are, there were 3 vacant. When we first came in, there were 3 vacant, and they needed some serious work, the 3 that were vacant. There was one up in Sothersville that we filled about a month ago, and then there was just one this last Friday. I wish I could bring in pictures. We just moved in a lady that was at one point homeless and now is living there with a family of 5. They're very excited to move into that property. We just leased them up after, and that property, one of the first phone calls I got was from the inspectors at Planning and Zoning saying, hey, we're going to have to find the housing authority because it's so messy and dirty out there. So we had to totally clean the property up. We had to rebuild it. There's some issues with the foundation, some issues underneath, and now it was beautiful. I've got some pictures which I can probably show you at a future meeting. But then that was just the
Are the
children.
people who become tenants in the scattered houses, are they part of the same waiting list that we have for everything else?
Yes, we have, yes and no. So we have a waiting list for a separate waiting list for every facility, thank you. And scattered sites is considered a facility too. And we have a waiting list for it. So yes. Now, we just opened it back up. It's a little shorter than the rest of them because there's not that many. But yeah, we do have a waiting list similar to it.
If someone moves into one of those houses,
Hmm?
we give them an end time at all, or is it just as long as they're able and willing to stay?
I mean, we give them a year's lease,
Right?
so, but I don't
After
think,
that year's lease, do we just automatically renew it, or so long as it's been paid?
yeah, I don't think I think we'll continue to renew it as long as they're within the,
I'm just kind of curious of how they got in such disrepair.
how the places. Well, that's, part of it was that they, that the tenants let them get in disrepair. But one of the things we're doing differently now is we're doing regular inspections. Yeah, we're gonna go out and do regular inspections and things like that, so that we can hopefully keep that from happening.
That's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know whether we just took a hands-off approach and let them stay
Oh,
there.
no, they have to be, we do regular, or we'll do yearly, at least annual inspections, if not more. And the scattered sites are no different than
I think
any
for
other
that-
places.
Those houses, that's more important because you don't have anybody else going through the house.
Right.
So,
Keep your eye out, we're updating the website. When we moved, that's QACHA.org. When we moved over to the county, the folks that provide our computer services, they've left and they were housing our website. So for a short time, our website's going to be with the county website, and then eventually it's going to kind of be with the website, but it's going to stand on its own. People continue to be able to pay their rent through it, get on the waiting list through it, but we're trying to make it more user-friendly, more aesthetically pleasing, and we're basically kind of using the model of Department of Zoning, or Department of Business and Tourism, their website. We're looking at that, and our plan is to really upgrade it and make
To
it
get
nice.
to it, you go through a link that's on the county website?
Yeah, but we've got if you do QACHA.org, we've got it pointed to the county website, where it is in the county website at the moment. Let's see. Later in the agenda, we're going to do a deep dive into Fisher Manor and talk about what we're working on, what we're hoping to have happen there. And then lastly, for your approval, the board meeting in October falls on a holiday. So with your permission, I would recommend that we forego that meeting, we skip the October board meeting. And on that same note, I'd like to have, and get with you, I'd like to have a board and staff planning retreat for late in November, where it would be like a 6-hour deal. And we would have people reach out to you to find out when you're available, and also maybe have a facilitator, and we'll have it at a planning retreat somewhere. So those are two things. So if it's okay, I'd like to recommend that we do not have a meeting in October, since it falls on a county holiday, and that we do have a board retreat towards the end of November with the date to be determined on that.
Does that need a motion?
I don't think it does. I mean, I don't think so. We'll just, unless, is there anybody concerned about that? We just won't have a meeting in October? Okay. And then also upcoming, in addition to an update on some of the work we're doing and planning on at Fisher Manor, we also have later on the day where I'll be asking for your approval to move some of the costs, the fees up in the chart that you have in your packet that you received earlier on also. Any other questions? And that is my director's report. Thank you.
Very good.
so, that takes us to the next subject field, which is old business. Is there any old business, sir?
I've listed those as placeholders because they are old business, but I think we've covered both of the bullets under that category.
Right. You want to speak on Fisher?
Okay. So. All right, so, as many of you know, probably better than me, but Fisher Manor is a property that you know, it's the first property that the Housing Authority ever owned. And it's something that, in addition to responding to work orders and bringing up our maintenance orders and working to increase our turnover so that we have vacancies less, we've put a lot of focus on doing what we can to improve and try to set plans to even more improve Fisher Manor. It's something that's very important to the staff and to me, and I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on that and just give everybody an overview, because we have to talk about kind of what's going on, what we have planned for the future, and then also what we're going to need to talk about in the future in regards to the Fisher Manor. So I just put together a little presentation here that just to get us started to start the conversation. So just for those, just to bring everybody on the same page, Fisher Manor is got 25 units, 24 3-bedrooms and 1 4-bedroom. It's located in Graysonville, Maryland on Cemetery Road. It was built in '89, and it was a response, as I understood it, to, you know, finding a place for folks who lived in the shanties on the Narrows, a place for them to live, and that was kind of the original idea. It was originally a HUD project site. Now, HUD has moved away from the idea of projects, and recently, under some of your leadership, I would imagine that about 8 years ago, it was converted to tenant-based vouchers. The current rent, includes the increase you guys just did, is $954 for the 3-bedroom, and for the 4-bedroom, it's $1,500 a month. It provides affordable housing for low-income to moderate-income families, and we're facing some maintenance and construction challenges, and that's what we're trying to address and we're trying to work on. So right now, we're focusing on improving immediate conditions and also determining what our long-term options are. And you can see there's some of the pictures we're working on. Some of that's right there is the sign, the front office area, and just what some of the units look like across with some of the new and older siding there. Let's see, make sure I'm in the right spot. So, in regards to the current situation, the county recently overhauled, for the Housing Authority, they did a lot of work on Riverside Apartments. They did a lot of work and put a lot of money into it, and a lot of work was required out there. And I think there's similar considerations that need to be considered for Fisher Manor. So that's kind of where we're talking about. So there's been past improvements. I mean, there's been some improvements that have happened in Fisher Manor recently, including they've done some insulation and air sealing, which my understanding is that happened about 2 years ago. There's new siding that happened about 1 year ago. And overall, from my perspective, mostly the complex looks good externally. We're currently in the process of rehabbing vacant units. We're currently in the process of rehabbing some vacant units as necessary. And you can kind of see there's some of the ones we're working to rehab. We're moving, and then with certain tenants, we're moving from poor condition units to the rehab units. We're replacing some HVAC units, conducting some mold remediation, and doing just general cleanup. We're also filling some potholes, and we're making a major effort to clean up storage areas and improve the office area also.
So you're rehabbing the ones that are getting turned over. How about the ones that have existing occupants? Are they getting?
Well, for example, this one right here, if you look at that, the before and the after. So on the left-hand side is an existing occupant. And when you look, that was over her sink area, and that was where the bathroom was leaking, and that's mold coming through and mold around the sink. And it was just really bad. Plus, the floor felt like you're walking on a waterbed. And we had an empty unit. So what we did is we rehabbed the empty unit, and we are going to move her into that new unit. So that's the after unit there. So the plan is that, and I think that's due to happen in a week, maybe less than a week, but she's going to move from that unit into the after unit.
Okay.
And then we're going to keep, but in the meantime, the ones that we can make improvements on while they're in there, we're also doing that too. We're kind of taking each unit, determining what we can do with each unit as we go along.
How are you doing the mold remediation? Is that, it's a very difficult process.
Well, we have different companies that we've been working with that the Housing Authority's been working with in the process. And like, for example, in that case, the mold was being created by, it's like you find the water source, the source of the water, and that was by a leaky toilet that was coming from. So in that case, we stopped where the water was coming from. We got rid of the mold that's in there, and we replace it that way. So it's almost, so sometimes and you just do it, sometimes you have a mold remediation company come in and provide suggestions on what to do. And that's what we've been working.
Another question, that there had been some security issues going on there. Has that all been addressed?
Well, it's not, no, I think there's still security issues going on there. And I've had tenants come to me and personally tell me that they'd like to see, that to be addressed, and that's actually further. But that's one of the things we'd like to do is, we'd like to make it safer for the tenants that are there. That some of the tenants have told me they're afraid to live there. And for the folks that, if there's tenants that are doing things that are illegal or not there, we are actively, that's another thing, we're actively looking at the lease and seeing what can we do if they're violating their lease, let's evict them. The other thing that we're working on is, for example, that's the new office space. It's not new, but we've revitalized the office space, and there's also some additional rooms there. But the idea is, and I'm going to approach the sheriff, and this is another thing that tenants have asked me to kind of do, but I want to approach the sheriff's office to see if, would he be willing to have some tenants come in and do some paperwork every once in a while, or some deputies come in and do paperwork in our office?
That was already happening.
Well, no, but they're coming through. We also, one of the things that is happening is our staff is spending a lot of time in the office, doing a lot of work there. So we're there, we're having a presence more often. We're bringing our security cameras back up to speed, things like that. And we're actively working where, if tenants are out of compliance with their lease, what can we do to bring them in compliance? And if there's anybody that's been arrested or anything like that, then they're out of compliance with their lease.
You once have 24-hour video?
24-hour video?
Do you once have 24-hour video cameras?
We do have that. Yes, we have that currently. And we're working to, it's just a matter of being able to follow it and see it. So, but we do have that. We've tightened it up. If you look on that picture in the office there on the upper right-hand corner, that's actually all of our video angles that are right up there. Now, we can see that in the home office too, but that's an example of the screen where we can see all the video.
There's no cameras inside of...
Well, there's cameras inside of the office, I think, but there's no cameras inside anybody's apartments, no.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think if there's one inside that office or not. I don't think there is.
Didn't we at one time have, I don't call it regular patrols from the sheriff's office, or was someone from the sheriff's office going to be stationed there?
I think over the years, my understanding is there has been. I don't know what that is now. One of the next steps was for me to start and have a conversation with the sheriff. But yeah, I mean, I know over the years I've heard folks tell me that over the years they went in and out, and even sometimes they've had private security hired there and things like that. We'll get more towards kind of how we want folks to feel about what my personal goal is for Fisherman. I'll get to that in a few minutes about, the feeling of it. And understanding so that the folks that live there feel safe and they're happy to be there and it's a good place to be. And quite frankly, then we make it to a point where crime, we don't accept that here. This is a good place to live with good people in it. There are already a lot of good people in it. They've treated me great. They treat our staff great, and they deserve to have a good place to live. And, and then crime becomes something that's just not acceptable.
Sometimes if you could just show the flag, the presence of the sheriff's
Right.
car sitting there overnight,
Right. And that has been asked of me. Some staff have asked, or tenants have asked that, and I do plan to talk to the sheriff. I did want to get the office up and running so that they would have that at their disposal if they chose to use it also.
Do you have any bachelor sheriffs that want to have a place to live?
I don't know. I don't know. So some of the maintenance projects that we're working on, that was kind of immediate. Some of the maintenance projects we're working on this year and some of the general improvements that we've done is we're working on trying to get regular trash removal. We're getting that cleaned up. We have a drainage area because the drainage has always been an issue on that site, and even the gullies and the culverts that go through there were filled up, and we've got those cleaned out. We've done the office area enhancements. The decks are in pretty much rough area and unsafe. We'll talk about that. The playground is unsightly and unsafe, has been deemed. And we've received some initial estimates for deck replacements, which exceeds our county procurement, so we're starting that process. And we're working into a partnership with the County Parks and Recreation for the playground. And we're also considering, but we don't know where we are with it yet, we've got more to learn in regards to a Maryland Environmental Agency solar panel grant. We're also looking currently at snow removal and how we're going to have that happen this year also. So I started with the decks. You can see that even though like the place looks great, the decks are out there are aging and they're in very poor condition. They're soft, they're warped, they got splintering wood, there's peeling paint, and they're just in general disrepair. Like I said, the replacement is not only necessary for safety, but just aesthetics. The place has got new siding and the decks will just make it look so much better. And again, the project exceeds $100,000, so we'll be putting out the bid, and we're learning the county procurement process. So we have somebody in the Department of Community Services that works under me, Brian, we call him Brian Jr. He's actually working on the county process for how we can put something out, RFP, for a big capital project like this. And he's working with the Department of Public Works. And we're in the process of getting, we have to get engineer specifications so we can put that in the RFP and start that process. Yes?
What kind of material is going to be used to replace it?
Well, that's one of the things we need to get from the specifications when the architect comes out and see what they recommend for it.
Yeah, because I mean, that's wood, obviously, that doesn't last.
Right,
and
right.
Tyvek seems to be the.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to cost and what, but we definitely want to look at it and see. One of the things that we probably will do is outside of the office in the library area, that deck is extremely bad, and we're probably going to have to repair that prior to even before the RFP, just because we have to get it working. So the next thing we're working on is the playground. You can see at the top is pictures of the playground. Excuse me. I don't know if you can see that, but it's in pretty rough shape also. It's been deemed to be unsafe by the Department of Recreation, and we're going to start pulling it out immediately. And the county's authorized Parks and Recreation to support a replacement. So our goal is to get a new playground before the holidays. And Parks and Recreation has generously agreed to serve as the project manager. They've already kind of laid out what it'll look like. You'll see down the bottom there. Those won't be the colors. We'll try to do colors that match a little bit better with the neighborhood, but that's kind of the layout. And that project is about $120,000 estimated, and so that's what we're working on making that happen for the playground.
You know what the percentage of families that are living there that have children might be?
I don't know that. I get asked that. I don't know that. I know that it gets used a lot, and I know there are a lot of folks with children and also like grandchildren come and visit and things like that also. Another thing that we're currently working on, and this is something that kind of started before the county partnered in, but we've got a collaboration. There's a grant from the Maryland Energy Administration for solar panels at Fisher Manor, and it's a collaboration with a nonprofit building firm called Building Change, Inc., and they've got a grant. They're a grant recipient and project manager for solar panel installation for all units at Fisher Manor under the Maryland Energy Administration's Open Energy. If we go forward, the solar energy benefit could, and it would go to each unit, so that the folks in those units could have lower costs for their electricity in each unit. We'd have to get some information, and it's estimated that it could bring down their monthly electric bills by 60 to 100%. The installation would be by Edge Energy and Solar Energy World, and they say that they provide a 20-year system guarantee on it. And that extra credits, energy credits, could actually come to the housing authority beyond what they save for the tenants.
Where would the solar panels be placed?
They would be placed on the roofs.
On the roofs.
And that's one of the things we have to make sure that the roofs can actually handle it. So that's another thing that they haven't provided us. So that leads to the next thing, is that we're working with staff and contractors to determine if we should move forward with that. Because can the roofs handle it? Can the roofs handle as many panels as they say to make that effect? Are we going to have Fisher Manor long enough that it makes it worthwhile? Some of those questions we've answered already. For example, if they get up there and they start installing solar panels, they find out that the roof can't handle it, then we've signed and we've got to pay for roof repairs, which,
Is there any excess land that panels could be put on the ground?
Not that question came up, and it didn't seem that was an option from this particular group. It was kind of this way. So we've got This one, we've still got a lot of questions. They've got to give us more specific numbers, and because it's a grant, they'll pay for it, but then they'll say, you know, but if we go over, we might need your help paying for it. Well, they're not giving us the details on that.
It's not a like 80-20 split or something.
No, it would be 100% if they had the money to cover it, but if their grant doesn't have enough money to cover it, then they would be coming to us at that point.
That's federal dollars?
Yes, federal,
They can go away.
right, yeah, so that's,
So the tenants pay the electric bill, yes?
tenants pay their own electric bill, yes.
And the solar panels across a large building like that, and we subdivide the heating. I mean, is it worth the expense of going to a solar panel?
Apparently what they're saying is that it could reduce, and there'd be enough panels, as they're saying now, to reduce their bills by 60 to 100% a month, is what the estimate is that they're giving us, each one. And that there would be specific panels tied to each unit, so that it would go that way.
That's something that comes in contract form, or is that's not just a hope?
Well, that's what they say they've got to do an MOU, and like, there's certain things that are like having us with a question about, we don't know, so they've got to get us some more information.
Certainly would be cautious about putting anything on the roof that kept it from drying, or where the fastenings went into the roof that you wound up with the plywood all getting rotted 5 years later, and then the county winds up with a huge
Exactly.
bill.
And just a question regarding, I think I just heard you say that each unit has a separate meter or
Yes.
coming in. Now, what if Unit A uses up their allotment and Unit B is at 50% of their allotment? Does it automatically get?
No, my understanding is
Yes,
there's certain solar panels that'll be specifically marked for specific
for
units.
certain units?
Yeah, the ones over the unit would be the ones they get.
And they would be sufficient, so no one would ever, if you wanted to keep your lights on 24/7, you'd be able to do that?
Well, I mean, for what it doesn't cover, there'd be still the regular electric, for lack of
Okay.
it, still come in. Yeah, they're still going to get
this
electric
is
from the
an
grid.
enhancement.
Yeah, this is credits.
And
This is
there's-
solar credits.
These things are battery, they use a battery for,
No, I think they go directly into the grid, and they're actually in credit
okay,
form.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. But in fact, at nighttime, it's Delmarva power.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no point that they would ever be out of electric if the sun wasn't shining or anything like that. They would still get regular electric. They wouldn't know.
You wonder about battery life on some of
Right.
these things.
My understanding is there's no battery. This isn't one of those deals that
Right,
get
no, I
caught us.
understand.
Yeah. So,
When are they going to decide if the roof is acceptable?
well, I mean, we got to go back and forth to see what that means. So it would be soon, but I don't know. I mean, they got to give us some other information about it before we decide that. I mean, basically, they're worried that the roof is relatively new. It's got enough amount of time built into the roof as far as the life of the roof, we've learned, is long enough for it, like, for example, to run the grant out. But, so that's the one thing, and it seems they feel like they would handle it. But the one thing they say is, go ahead and sign the MOU, and then our subcontractor will come in and look at it and say, we will, if the roof can't handle it, we'll go to the MEA and say that we're not going to do this grant, and we won't hold them responsible for doing this project. But that still worries me. I'd rather know before we sign any MOU, if we sign any MOU.
I don't personally have any experience with solar. If anybody here is like Mr. Mon knows a lot about engineering, is solar applications in houses, 5 or 10 years later, they happy with that, or is that working out for them, or?
I don't have a lot of experience with the housing, units, but I know we've got some big arrays here that we use for government purposes that have done pretty well for us.
Yeah,
So there's, could be some opportunities there, and potentially, I was gonna mention Mike, over the meeting that we've entered into an agreement with some other firms that are doing, for lack of a better word, solar gardens, where you can actually purchase the energy from a solar field built somewhere else,
Yeah.
for a reduced rate, which
That's
may
a
also
different-
be, I don't know if it's eligible for grant dollars, but it's something
Right.
we could explore as well as
Has anybody thought about or looked at the future of, what 50, 100 years from now, all these solar panels are gonna end up looking like?
Yeah, 'cause I've read about the solar panels, and they don't, I understand the cost of installation. We absorb the cost of installation, right?
No, the grant would cover that.
The electric company does, the solar panel people do.
Right.
But we're responsible for every nail or hole they put in the roof, yes?
We would be responsible to maintain if there was a problem created from it, yes.
I just wonder what the net savings is per household for that. That's something we're looking at, yes.
Right, yes. So, I mean, according to them, and they're anxious to do this because they've got this grant, it would create a nice cost savings for the tenants. But there'd be, we just want to make sure that there's not a cost to the housing authority because of the work they've done. Or if they go over budget, are we going to be left on the hook to do it? So that's.
Is this a 100% grant, or is this like a 80-20?
Well, it's 100%. It's 100% grant, but they only have so much money. So if it goes over the cost of it to do some of these things, then that would be where we could potentially be left on the hook. And we want to, in order to make that decision, we've got to see more specific numbers. So that where we are right now is just asking for more. They're quite frankly pushing us because it was like, well, this project started before we ever, the county ever took over. But then they applied for this grant, got it. And then it took them a while. So now it was kind of wait. And now, as I understand it, now they're like saying they're trying to push us because they need to do it really quickly. And we're pushing back and saying, well, maybe, but let us see the numbers. Let us know and let us understand.
If it's federal dollars, that can end up going away.
Right.
On the other hand, we don't want to preside over a debacle with, so this board looks at it cautiously.
Right. The one thing that if the other side, on the positive side, that if it does go well, it could mean more money for like new HVAC. When we start to go replace those at Graysonville Terrace, it could help us with a new roof at Graysonville Terrace and fund those. So it'd be nice to have, that's the one thing on my mind is if we have a good showing with this one, it might help us fund future projects when we go to look at Graysonville Terrace and some other properties.
Do they heat with electric?
Yes.
So this is some kind of general grant to be used as the county sees fit for energy?
No, it's a specific solar Maryland Energy Administration grant to this particular nonprofit that entered into a partnership with the Housing Authority. So.
Use it or lose it.
Yes. So.
Very good.
But I will keep you guys updated on
Housing
that.
authorities that have used them?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that one. I'll have to look and see. I know that they've done other projects, and I can ask about the other folks they've worked with and maybe call around and see. Because there's definitely, this is not a done deal. There's definitely more research we got to do before we decide which direction we're going to go on this. So there's more to come on that. We'll let you know about that one as we go. In regards to some other things, is that another big piece is we're just working, like I said earlier, we want to provide the folks at Fisher Manor a supportive environment there. And we want to do that through our property management. We're trying to focus on a more positive atmosphere and just have higher expectations. Just like we talked about earlier, when there's a work order, we want to be able to respond to it quicker. We want to support the residents there. There's several of them that are doing amazing jobs with after-school activities, after-school programs in the library. They've redone the library in a partnership with the Rotary. Because you guys know we've increased our staff, but it's still not a lot of staff, and folks out there want to do work, so what are some happy mediums? That's why on the lower right there, we have a key-in pad where people can key in a PIN number and use the library between certain times, and they don't have to wait around for our staff to come and let them in. And the idea, now that was down for a while after the computer change, we've got it back up. They've also asked to be able to use the bathroom at the office, so we put a similar, so that the kids wouldn't have to go back home or anything like that during the middle of the program to use the restroom. So we've got another keypad that with the staff would take them to the restroom and they could use the restroom right there with another keypad. So that's just an example of how we're trying to work with folks to try to help them as they're doing some of these really good projects. So in addition to just providing support, we're trying to increase our turnaround time on the maintenance projects. We're trying to enforce our leases to enhance safety and accountability. With the inspections that we're doing at all our units, we'll be able to catch issues like mold and soft floors and other repairs faster. Like you guys mentioned, we're going to try to, like some of the tenants have requested, to engage with the sheriff's office for increased presence and safety. And we're also looking, we tried to do one earlier in the summer, but maybe now we're looking for the fall, but to do like a community event, more community events, just to foster engagement between the board, the staff, and residents there. So that's one of the things we're really working and I want to do, and I hope we can make that happen. In addition to just making the place better physically, but how can we make it better from that perspective too? And that kind of leads to the last part about it, is like when we were talking about, has the sheriff been out there? So like I really want to like shift Fisher Manor from like this perception that is dangerous and unwelcome to where it's a safe, comfortable environment. We've been focusing on the aesthetics of it, but we also want to work on our attitude as staff and our customer service, to provide better customer service out there. I really want to create a space where the tenants feel respected and treated fairly. We're doing an immediate effort on providing the safe and decent units, so that when there's an issue and soft floors and other things else, we're getting that done quickly. When we see unsafe units, we're trying to move folks into safer units out there. And then, and those are the immediate efforts we're working to provide safe and decent units. And then that'll be up to this group over the next to decide what we need to do for Fisher Manor in the next 5 to 10 years. Where do we want it to go? Where do we see it? What's the best way to address Fisher Manor over 5 to 10 years? And we're going to start talking about that, both as we just talk about in general, and as we board retreats and staff retreats and things like that, to decide what's next for Fisher Manor and how can we make it better, not only immediately, but into the future, so it's a long-term kind of place, long-term kind of deal. So you can kind of see there that that's what we're working on there, that we had a lot of signs. It felt like there's a lot of signs telling people not to do things. We've taken down some of those. I just noticed because trying to make it look nicer so it doesn't feel like you're walking in and just everybody's screaming at you with all these signs. Now, there are some certain signs we have to have there, speed limits and letting people know they are being filmed, but we don't need 6 cameras saying that, or signs saying that. One is good. And we're also working to try to get, a couple other projects, we want to get the parking lot restriped. We're putting up nicer handicap signs and those types of things. So those are some of the things, and I just feel like we got a lot coming up with Fisher Manor, and I just wanted to kind of bring everybody up to the same speed as we start the discussion.
So it's nice to see us thinking forward instead of worrying about the past. This is something that us, according to the residents, whoever's involved, we're not looking 2 weeks down the road, but you're looking 5 to 10 years. That's awesome. Thank you.
All right. So that's, unless there's any other questions about that particular, then the next thing on the agenda, if it's all right, Mr. Chair, is it okay to go to the next on the agenda there? Is it okay to move to the next thing on the agenda?
Move on, sir.
Okay, so you'll see a list that looks like this in your packet. What this is from left to right, is it's been a while since we've noticed that we've gotten a lot of calls and things like that. So there's certain areas where our costs, our charges for certain things that we have to do just don't match what the real expenses were, and also in some cases didn't detract. So what I asked our staff to do is put together a list, and what this list does is down the left-hand side has all the expenses where we might charge a tenant for certain things, like a lockout or a new key, or if something's broken, you know, the cost to replace it. And then the next column over, moving over to the right, is the current fee, how much we charge for that currently. And then to the right of that is the proposed new fee for it. And then lastly, we justify why we think that fee should go up. And I don't think any of the fees have gone up too much, but there's certain things. So and the only ones we're asking for new fees are in red. So for example, if somebody breaks a storm door, we've got a cost for that we've just put in there. Light globes, if the lights are broken, that used to be $675 to $825, but now that could just be the cost of light. And again, none of these costs are due to normal wear and tear. They're all just if, for some reason, there's a fault on the tenant's side, then we would charge. If the tenant was at fault for the charge, that's when we charge. But if it's a mistake or if it's just from normal wear and tear, we would incorporate that into our budget and not place that as a tenant responsibility to pay it. So what my ask is for today is if you would all be willing to accept the cost increases there for the ones, for example, some of the ones, the new garbage disposal request, we did not provide that before. For tenants that had a garbage disposal and a requested replacement, that would be at their cost, plus the labor. A new toilet seat replacement, again, that would only be if they broke it. If it just broke from normal wear and tear, we wouldn't charge. Lockout, charge used to be $15. We've asked to move that up to $25 just to reflect the fees. It's been about 5 years since these have been done. The lockout, that's the daytime. Lockout at night, we're $33. We're asking to move that up to $40 for that. Lost door key, that was $10, but now it's what the cost of the contractor due to do that, and that'd be the same for the mailbox key. They would have to go to the postal service. Drywall repair, again, only tenant neglect. Like if they broke it intentionally for some reason, they would be charged, but if not, we would cover the cost. New carpet replacement, again, tenant neglect, that would be the contractor cost, but if that's just due to normal wear and tear, that would be part of our price.
Who makes those determinations?
I think that becomes from a discussion with the program manager, our new program manager, Lisa Gray, who has a lot of that experience, has done that in other units and other places. It's also with a discussion with the tenant. We have those discussions, and they typically it seems like there would be a lot of about that, but there's occasionally that happens. But most of the time, once we talk it out, we tend to be able to, a lot of times folks will say, yeah, I did it, or yeah, that's on me, or no, that's just wear and tear. I've had this carpet for 20 years. I've lived here for 20 years. What do you mean you're going to charge me for the carpet? And we're like, okay, yeah, you're right. We probably shouldn't do that, that kind of thing. So but this is just an attempt to kind of bring us up to more standards, so.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
On the lockouts,
Yes.
what do you think daytime and night out after business hours are?
Typically, you mean, you'd like us to clarify those?
Yeah.
Like, we'd probably do 8 to 4:30 is the daytime, and then the nighttime would be any time outside of that.
Yeah, okay.
So, is that okay? So we'll make the lockout for the daytime 8 to 4:30, and then lockout after business would be any other time.
Right.
Okay. So I don't know if the board's comfortable making a motion to accept that with that one change, accepting this sheet.
I think I like it, but I always look with a little suspicion at something like 15 issues of contractor cost when you don't know what the hell,
Right.
If that was a good deal, I have no idea if mailbox key is worth $20 or not. Just representing the tenants is one of the things we're supposed to be doing here, that if there is any dispute about that, I'd like this board to hear about it, so that we could, not vary it.
Right. Well, I think it's been made clear in the past that people know your phone
When
numbers.
people come in and say, well, it costs too damn much to unclog the tub or something, come tell us, and, we'll make good if it's not right.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't prohibit the tenant from doing any of their own repairs.
I think actually that's typically frowned upon. We'd rather them submit work orders. That way we
So if you
can.
got a clogged toilet, you
think-
can't
I mean, yeah.
use a plunger?
That's exactly. I mean, that's one of those things where if they, yeah, I mean, if they need our help, we'll help them. If they, on a clogged toilet, if they can do it on their own, that's great too. But like bigger repairs, it's typically, we prefer just so we can make sure it's done correctly. And that's kind of a standard thing, is most landlords like to have some thought over and have some oversight, because there might be ways that we can do it, or we might be trying to do it in a particular manner to be consistent across certain things. And there might be a code we have to follow too.
But if they do it themselves, we're probably never gonna know it.
Well, yeah, there is that.
All right, that would appear to be, that. I don't know what else we got, the only.
Well, I don't, are you comfortable making the motion to approve them, or would you rather not? There's a,
Any remarks? I do with the caveat that if it looks like there's any pushback from the tenants or any feeling that some of these charges aren't fair, that we hear about it.
okay, so what I'm hearing is like the motion says, I move to approve and adopt the list of tenant charges and recommended costs as outlined in the document dated today entitled this, but we're willing to,
Subject to review by experience.
Quick question in that regard. Are we gonna see any kind of a periodic report on how much maintenance has been needed to be
We
done?
are, yeah.
well, yeah, that's the work orders are what you're seeing. So like in that report, those work orders, but we can also start having more of a, okay, what's the story behind those numbers? And we can have Brian come, he couldn't make it today,
We have
but,
records of everything.
yeah. We can go over and show you some of the ideas of work
We need
orders.
it in a format that we can
Right.
peruse it real quickly at one of these, you know.
Right.
Is it under control, is it out of control?
Right,
That's all we care
right.
about.
And that's exactly what we're working towards to do, more of, numbers. And another thing, are we responding to the tenants' issues fast enough, et cetera? So,
I'd like the work order process review. That,
right, that's something, that's one of the things, I think we went over that, like, last month, we went over the work order process review. And we didn't go over it this month, but one of the things I think I failed to mention in my director's report is that we are also now in the process of trying to do vacancy turnover faster. So we've got that process we're working on currently.
How's our waiting list looking?
Waiting list is, it's gone up a little. They've gone up. If you look on that list, they've all gone up it's about the same. We're pulling people off of it. Kenya's steady pulling people off of it and getting them into apartments, but it's still, the numbers are staying the same or going up, so.
I think one of the things that your office ought to be, you personally should be doing is contemplating at what point we expand this thing.
Well, that'll be a discussion. We have to decide, that's like a retreat thing. Like at the board planning retreat, where do we want to go? Do we want to have more apartments? Does the board want to focus on that? And I think we can start having those discussions too. It's like, where do we want to put our focus? Do we want to put our focus on finding and encouraging more units? And if so, there's lots of different ways to do that, and we can start to explore those too.
That would seem to be that. One thing is, we've had 2 additional people come in, and you missed the public session. If you have any remark, you're certainly invited to have your say.
I appreciate you guys coming. Thank you.
Apparently, no takers, so. With that, I'm going to ask anybody want to,
I have a question.
oh, speak up.
You're fast. On the red sheet, new security front door replacement. Are we talking about the big front door?
New security,
You have storm door screen replacement, and then new storm door frame replacement, and then new security front door replacement.
I think that's the type of door, but that's like, for example, the comments is when folks, if for some reason EMS has to break in, or if there has to be a police entry, those doors are very expensive to replace. So if there's something like that, then that would be a cost that we would.
So that security front door is the main
That's
door
the main
that
door.
everybody comes in?
No, that is for folks that have an entrance, well, yeah, it'd be their apartment door.
Their apartment?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Need a motion to adjourn?
Well, I think you got to finish your motion to approve. You made the motion I move to approve and adopt the list of tenant charges and the recommended costs as outlined in the document dated today, titled List of Reasonable Charges, subject to review by experience. And I think, Steve, you
We
made that.
basically did that, but we can do it again. We so moved to approve the charges.
Seconded.
Mike, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Sir?
Thank you, sorry, I appreciate that.
And now we're just on the motion to shut her down, which we get in.
Stuff, nice to see this.
To make a motion to adjourn our monthly meeting?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.